Anō reira, tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou I rungi tāhuatanga o te rā. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihera Taiao ki Waitaha. Kei a koutou nā ringa raupā nā kai kaunihera. Ai nā manuheri mai te hunga pāpāhoa. Nā me mo te hāpori. Tēnā koutou. Anō reira, e rauranga tērā mā. Nau mai, hara mai, tauti mai ki tēnei hui. Tēnā koutou. Ka ho atu te rākau ki a Councillor Scott mō te karakia timatanga o tātou nei hui. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora, Councillor Pauling. Tēnā koutou I hui mai I tēnei ata. I tika ki te mihi, ki tu tātou hoa ian. I te whehenga o tu papa. Ka nui te aroha a mātou ki a koe, mi tō whānau. Kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui. Nō reira, nā mate ki nā mate. Tātou, tike, tika, nohi ora, kia tātou. Reira. So what I've just said is, greetings to us gathered this morning. It is right that we acknowledge our friend Yayan and the passing of his dad. We also send our sympathy to you and your family. Be strong, be steadfast, be persistent. Therefore, let the dead be with the dead and the living be with the living. Me enoi tātou. So karakia whakaturia mai. Whakaturia mai te uru kahikatia. Whakaturia mai te uru taumatua. Ka tōro nā pakia katia. Ka tōro nā kaupika hia. Ka rangi whawha. Kia aurangi. He whakamaru maru. He whakaruru hau. I te iwi e. Ui, wiru, tō mai te Māori. Haumi e, hui e, tāki.
Tāki.
Thank you, Councillor Pauling, and thank you, Councillor Scott. Just moving on with the meeting now. Apologies. We don't have any apologies. We don't have any notifications around conflicts of interest. And today we don't have anybody coming to our public forum as a deputation or handing us up a petition. I've not been told that there's any extraordinary and urgent business, and I don't believe any's happened in the last hour or so. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Notices of motion. There's no notices of motion today. So we're moving on now to page 5 of the agenda, which is the draft annual plan. In introducing this, I won't say too many words. I will speak when everybody else speaks later on in the debate. But we've had excellent help from staff with our developing our annual plan, and we've all worked in collaboration together. I think it's been a really good exercise in governance and elected members and Tumu Taiao and us all working really constructively with staff to come up with a very good annual plan draft document, which will serve to raise good discussion in the community. So congratulations to everyone, but particularly to staff, because it really increases the workload at this time of the year. So thank you very much for your work in that space. So I'm going to move up from the chair, the beginning of this, and then we'll councillors will speak after 3.2 when we'll put up the resolution around adopting the annual plan, and then people can speak to it during that debate. So the first resolution on the books, and I'll ask Peter Scott to second the first one. We just go through them. Adopts the submissions as recommended by the Regional and Strategic Leadership Committee. That's moved by me and seconded by Peter Scott. Councillor Peter Scott, thank you. Does anybody else want to speak to that? Or Peter, do you want to speak to that?
No, I think these first parts of this item are pretty much just to get us to where we need to have a discussion, so I'm happy.
All right, well, around voting today, I think that what we'll do is we'll definitely have a show of hands. So we'll just have to take this a little bit slowly because we have to make sure everybody's on the same page here. So I'll ask you to do a show of hands. It's probably best to do it on the, put your hand up. So I'm going to put to the meeting, adopts Resolution 1. All those in favour, please say aye. All right, just checking with you, Christina. Has everybody voted?
Yes, we have everybody.
All right, that's carried. Anybody against? Oh, there's nobody against. Obviously, everybody's voting in the affirmative, so that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to item Resolution 2, and you should have it on the screen, approves that public consultation on the draft annual plan 2022-23 be undertaken in accordance with section 82 of the Local Government Act. Once again, I'll move that, and I'll ask Councillor. Good, thank you very much, Councillor Scott. Would anybody like to speak to this item? Councillor Lan Farn, are you wanting to speak, or no? You're taking your hand down. That's all right. All those in favour, please say aye. Put your hands up. Oh, I'm voting for it too, obviously. All right, that's carried. Anybody against? There not being anybody against, that's carried. Thank you very much. Now we're up to item 3, and we'll take the debate after item. I'll put items 3.1 and 3.2 together because they make sense together. So I'll just read them onto the record. That the council adopts for public consultation the 2022-23 annual plan consultation document. For public consultation prepared in accordance with section 95A of the Local Government Act and 3.2 the draft annual plan in accordance with sections 95 of the Local Government Act on consultation. Now, what I'm going to do here is ask that Councillor Peter Scott once again seconds it. Is that all right with you, Peter? It is. Seconded by Councillor Peter Scott. Now, I'd like to ask people, is there anybody who would like to speak for or against the adoption of the consultation and the annual plan document? Councillor Lan Farn, would you like to go first?
Kia ora. Thank you, Chair, and kia ora koutou. So, yeah, I'd love to go first. Give or take a few things, I'm really proud of where we've got to with this annual plan. And firstly, I want to join our chair in thanking and acknowledging the work of our staff in getting us to today. Thank you. And also to my council colleagues for being so engaged in these important decisions. Secondly, I'm really looking forward to hearing what our community think of what we're proposing here. I know the 24% figure will alarm people, especially amidst a pandemic. And actually, in some way, I hope it does, because as our chair has alluded to, our unfortunate reality is that COVID or no COVID and hardship or no hardship, our environmental problems in this climate emergency will not only get worse through delaying action, they will get more expensive. So if we don't continue to make progress and pay now, we can be certain our kids and future generations will be lumped with the costs for many, many years to come. So I hope the headline of the average rate increase really motivates people to look at the actual dollar figure that they will pay. Because for many, this means a $1 to $2 week increase in rates in actual dollars. I'm especially heartened that we're looking to the future with this annual plan, proposing a future climate levy, which may fund emissions reduction programs in future, just like our currently proposed targeted fair free trial, or increased pest control or ecosystem protection in the future. And that we're proposing to tackle our big climate challenges, like flood recovery from the 2021 floods, together as one Waitaha Canterbury community. I do want to mention that I am concerned about our proposal to cut 300k from our planned increase in funding for our ecological protection and regeneration program, Me Ururako, because this program got overwhelming support and submissions for our LTP. So I hope people consider reiterating that support. But the one thing that I'm most excited about is our proposed free fair trial for under 25 students and community and mobility card holders, because public transport is our key emissions reduction tool that we have the power on this council to pull. And it's here, it's costed, and it's ready for community feedback. And that is really awesome. And I want to give a big shout out to the PT team for that in particular. I did also want to emphasise, though, that this is not just a cost to the community. Many people, mostly families, students, and low income earners will benefit hugely from this. And I wanted to just give a few really short examples just to illustrate it. So a 2-child family, both school age, using the bus in Zone 1 for 5 days a week for 40 weeks of term costs about $1,200 a year versus the $49 rate increase for PT in Christchurch for a 580k house. A 2-kid family, 1 tertiary and 1 school kid, from busing from Zone 3 for 4 days a week of the term would cost the family about $2,300 per year versus the $20 flat fare we're charging for PT in Selwyn. And a tertiary student busing from Zone 2 just 3 days a week would cost them $924 versus the $36 rate increase in Waimakariri. Ultimately, whether each one of us individually would benefit from this or not in terms of our own bus use is irrelevant, because we all benefit from reduced greenhouse gas emissions, less traffic on the road, less cars, taking up car parks, better air quality, and the list goes on. We can't afford not to take the bold steps proposed here today, and I hope people get on board with letting us know their views so we can know whether we've got this right or not. So kia ora, thank you so much, and looking forward to hearing what council's take on this is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farn. Councillor Phil Clearwater, you would like to go next?
Kia ora. Today, councillors, I'm really grateful to you and to you, Chair Jenny, and especially to staff, as Lan has referred, in my view, for going more than just an extra mile to have this consultation document and our annual plan prepared on time for consultation, so we can now hear from our communities, so we can get their views and take them into account with our future deliberations and decision making. And there's no doubt that we owe our staff here at Environment Canterbury a debt of gratitude for all of that extra work. I also want to thank staff for working with the changes that as councillors we requested, and as Lan referred to, council engaging on the proposal for a future targeted levy for more action on climate change. I'm very pleased that staff have included that, or that we as a council have, and very pleased that the concept I put forward has been agreed now by council today. Clearly, one of the proposed significant changes is for the Ashburton River Rating District classes, so they better reflect the cost benefit from flood protection. However, the Ashburton River is in the context of that topic too in our consultation document about flood protection and recovery, and how that relates to all of Canterbury, the whole of Canterbury region, and the risk of a major flood in any part of Canterbury in the future. So I'm also really pleased that we're consulting on the changes to the bus fare structure, as Lan referred, and also, though, that the preferred option for a 2-year trial to increase bus patronage and reduce emissions, because both the consultation on the Ashburton River flooding and the bus options are all tied in to reducing the rate of climate change, and that's the challenge. And because I think we know that over half of the emissions of the carbon emissions in Greater Christchurch come from transport. And so the challenge is, how do we get our cars off the street, off the roads, so that there's also some choice for people to use public transport or active transport, so that we can reduce that rate of climate change and the disastrous consequences which we are seeing right today, right across the world, but also, as the document refers to, in May in Canterbury, but also right now on the West Coast. So I'm really glad that one of the options is a targeted fare-free bus travel for the under 25s, and it'll be for students and people with a total mobility card and service card holders, because those are the people who can least afford high travel costs. And I am glad we're not consulting on fares for all, because those costs would be, I believe, unfair on ratepayers. And as Lan referred to too, though, in addressing these challenges, it is coming at a cost to the ratepayer. But I agree that there is a greater cost we would fail our constituents if we were to not put out these proposals, so we can receive constituents' views on how together we can meet those challenges. So I support the staff recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Clearwater. Yes, Councillor Elizabeth Mackenzie. Oh, sorry, I went wrong.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I would like to speak in support of the proposed annual plan. It addresses our big issues like climate change, and it seeks to spread the costs of flood recovery in a more equitable way. Our annual plan also seeks to address social inequity in public transport by offering free bus fares to those who are on low incomes. It's still nowhere near the goal of making car ownership in towns and cities optional. We're still waiting for government support to help us achieve that goal. But I would note that we're still not addressing public transport for our increasingly ageing population that have retired into our small rural towns. And I'm not happy at some of the cutbacks we have had to make in order to keep our costs down. Tree planting should be the last thing that gets cut from our budget in the face of climbing carbon dioxide levels. I'm not happy that we have to ask our ratepayers for funds that should be coming from central government. 24% is a big number. According to OECD data, New Zealand has one of the lowest amounts of investment in local government in the world. Our government only puts about 11% of their funds into local government. All of the rest is for central government. This is a false economy, because well-funded local solutions to local problems are often more efficient and more effective than national ones. We face a future of increasing climate disruption and loss of social cohesion. This is a time when a strong, thriving local government is absolutely critical to our survival. To have a resilient society, we need a resilient local government. If our government funded us properly, we shouldn't have to ask our ratepayers for extra money at a time when the cost of living is rising for everyone. So I would urge our ratepayers to make submissions on our annual plan, and I would also urge them to become more politically active, to join lobby groups and to make your voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. And Councillor Mackay, apologies. I read the list wrong. So you should have been next. So please accept my apologies. You're next. Over to you, Councillor Mackay.
Thanks, Jenny. No problem. Look, like others, I just really want to thank the staff for their tremendous amount of work and rework that has got us to where we are today. And I know you've all been under huge pressure to not only do your job, but against the background of great uncertainty that we're currently living in. And look, just thank you from the depth of my heart. So I just want to touch on 2 points today, really. Firstly, it's around the fact that this consultation document is going out to Canterbury ratepayers and communities with an average 24.1% rate rise on last year's rate take. And that is the headline. Doesn't matter how you try and slice it and dice it, that's the actual headline. So despite my and several other councillors' protestations, the majority view has taken us to this place. But this is not even remotely affordable for our ratepayers and communities. And I'd just like to challenge this table to pause and reflect and consider the huge impost in the face of the real world challenges, including the economic signals that our communities are being significantly impacted and stressed by. And previous speaker actually noted that. In the long-term plan consultation, Council also went out with a similar figure and got a record number of submissions. And I hope that our community can see some merit in taking time to submit, expressing their views on the whole document, rather than just thinking, why, you won't even take any notice of us. And actually that was a refrain I got yesterday when I was actually discussing with a constituent and trying to encourage them to submit around some flood relief. So I'm really disappointed that this council didn't have the courage to commit to an in-depth critical evaluation of the work programs and prioritise, despite staff helpfully providing a number of options, given that our start base was actually 18% due to previous long-term plan decisions. And the reality is that something always comes along that must be funded in any given year, and we have several of those identified in the consultation document. In my view, prioritisation should have occurred rather than the additive mentality. My second comment relates to public transport. And it was noted earlier by a previous speaker that public transport is accepted as a key tool to reduce carbon emissions and has been at the forefront of this table's consideration for the options on the table. From a cost effectiveness point of view, the preferred option, being option 1, is considerably more expensive per tonne of carbon dioxide to achieve the carbon dioxide reductions than the flat fare option of 2. And the modelling, which has been put out in the consultation document, shows for the full year of 23-24 that it's $7,647 per tonne reduced versus $4,130 for the flat fare option. Really confusing. And while a consultation document correctly shows the total likely PT rate, including the options on the rate that we're putting out for the ratepayers, it is for a part year of 22-23 due to the planned start of the change. Now, for clarity, for the ratepayer constituents that I represent in the Waimakariri urban area, should the preferred option be the ultimate decision by Council, an addition $20.10 increases to $49.44 in the following full year will be the additional, due to the options that we're putting out for consultation for the 2-year trial, to the ordinarily already signalled and overhead cost increases. The absence of central government funding support for these targeted or free fares, such as in our proposed options, is telling, despite the message that public transport is the key tool for emissions reductions. Look, I support getting more people using public transport. However, it's my belief that service improvements should have been prioritised. Having a frequent, reliable service with high quality buses and infrastructure has been the constant cry of submitters to this council. Have a service people want to engage with and it will be used. On a positive note, I'm supportive of the regional flood recovery rate for the May 21 regional event and the Ashburton rating area review proposal. Overall, I'm unable to support the size of the rate increase proposed in this council document and therefore will register my vote against this recommendation 3 today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Councillor Ian McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I note that this is a discussion document, and because it's a discussion document going out for consultation, that doesn't mean we as councillors agree with everything that's in the discussion document. However, I would like to congratulate our staff for what is a very clear, the consultation document in particular, for being a very clear and articulate way of describing what it is we want to discuss on. I like Councillor Mackay, and I'm happy with the scale of the rate rise. And note some of that is to do with events we have to respond to, such as the flood recovery. And so if I can just go through the three proposals. The flood recovery I support. This proposal actually came from a combined meeting of all the mayors of the district, of the region, within the region, and has been discussed at length as the most effective way that we as a community can recover and rebuild resilience into our flood, our river management network. And this has implications for our roading, our bridges, as well as private and public property. And so I support that initiative. I also support the Ashburton Ashburton River rating reclassification. Again, I note that the impetus for this came from the Ashburton River Liaison Committee, who've been asking for this reclassification for a while, and I'd like to thank our river engineering team, but in particular Matt Sermon, who did the reclassification, and it's his recommendations. It has, again, as I say, support of the Ashburton Liaison Committee and the informal support of the Ashburton District Councillor and Mayor. And so I don't expect it to be hugely controversial. And I note that the most somebody in Ashburton will be paying for flood protection is about $150 a year, and that's for a $750,000 house. And I would have thought that most people will see that that level of contribution for that level of insurance is probably a pretty good deal. When it comes to public transport, I note that option 1 is claiming that it reduces greenhouse gases or greenhouse gas emissions by putting under 25-year-olds on buses, as opposed to, I'm assuming, driving V8 Monaro cars to and from school and university. Because the claims of carbon reduction seem to be quite substantial. And I know all this has been modelled, but it would seem to me if you're comparing putting all those people onto bicycles instead of buses or V8 Monaro cars for that matter, then in fact the claims of climate change effect might be minimal. And I would have thought that if we are serious about climate change, the under 25s demographic would be something that we should be encouraging to take active transport to get to and from school, university and work, given their age group. If they can't ride a bicycle, who would you expect ever to ride a bicycle? And the advantage, I think, of having an in-depth discussion about some of this with the greater community is that perhaps we should be considering how, if in fact we were encouraging more people to take other forms of active transport, which genuinely have low carbon emissions, we might be able to then target our public transport offering to more specifically suit those people who can't afford or can't or because of physical conditions rely on public transport, such as the elderly. I've also got reservations about the climate change fund. I note that in our requests to central government for co-funding of river management, that document refers to flood events as our most frequent, our most significant, and our most avoidable natural hazards across New Zealand. And I think the most avoidable is the critical issue here. We spend annually $15 million on managing our rivers, and that in turn protects $110 billion worth of assets, private and public. I guess my reservations, and something I hope that the discussion will be had with the community about this climate change fund, is that, in my view, I think we're better to collect monies for river management, specifically for river management in the widest context of that meaning, rather than collect a fund which is untargeted in the first place, other than for climate change, and then allow politics to decide whether that money is put into public transport or other black holes. And so I hope that the community will have those discussions. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be Councillor Megan Hands. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Chair, and hopefully a small person in the background keeps quiet while I speak. Now, like other councillors, I am uncomfortable with where we've got to and disappointed with the draft annual plan consultation. People will be reminded that during the deliberations for the long-term plan, I voted against a rates increase of 18.8% at that time on the grounds of affordability and of not considering the reality that we're in terms of financial positions of people. And that view hasn't changed for me. Council was given options by staff to make adjustments to our work program, which would have decreased the impost on our ratepayers. Unfortunately, it seems to me that much of our council is living within an echo chamber, completely unaware of the pain that people are feeling in our community as they struggle to put food on the table and pay their ever-increasing bills. To go out with a rates increase of 24.5% without really taking an in-depth look at the programs that we're delivering and reworking those moving forward is an insult to our ratepayers once again. When we look at inflation at 5.9%, not accounted for within our budget, when we look at the median rent increase in Canterbury being 9%, when we consider that when interest rates are doubling and that 20 to 50% of first home buyers will be in real financial strife should rates go to 5 and 6% as anticipated by the end of this year, the mind boggles for me as to why this council would think it was appropriate to go out for a 24.5% rates increase to undertake projects that we'd like to do. We should have gone back and looked at our programs again and reprioritised and chosen the things that we believe to be the most important and kept to our word at the 18.8% or much lower. Now, there are some good things in the annual plan consultation that will be interesting to see the community give their views on, and I really hope the community does give us their views because we haven't listened very well in the past. The flood recovery, of course, needs to happen, and I think it's very important that we do, as a region, contribute to flood recovery as we have in the past and should in the future. The bus options, you'll know I've been a big supporter of including lower fares or fare stimulus in order to try and get people on buses. The cost of fares-free universal, as Phil Clearwater has mentioned, was far too prohibitive for us without the support of central government. And even the options we have on the table are difficult without support from central government to get people on buses and public transport. Personally, I would have preferred we supported a $2 flat fare, and I encourage anyone who is looking closely at the fares consultation to look at those options and look at the modelling in behind the options that are there, because I think we get more bang for buck in terms of being able to do service improvements, reduce the fares that we go through, we hand on to customers, and at the same time get those reductions in greenhouse gases. As for the climate change levy, it's an interesting idea. It's been tacked on late in the piece, and there's very little detail here in the consultation document. But again, I return to the affordability point and wonder what planet we're on when we're considering adding another levy on top of a 24.1% rates increase, which is on top of the 12% that we increased last year. I'm frustrated that this council does not seem to listen to its constituents, that we are blind to the pain around us, and that we are not considering the best interests financially as well as environmentally as we move forward. It's important that we balance the two as we show leadership within the region, and I feel that we're letting the region down. So I won't be supporting the consultation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hands, and your little baby must have been asleep in the background, so that was lovely, thank you. Councillor John Sunkel, you'll be next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have real sympathy with our previous speakers, and I thank staff also for the work that they have done in getting this document to the point where it is to go out for consultation. There have been some real challenges in bringing it to its fruition, as we have debated and argued. I guess from my perspective, we have known that there are considerable headwinds coming towards us, and whilst we sit at a 24.1% rate rise, we should have been cognizant of the challenges that we would be facing. Inflation at 5.9, potentially going to 6 or 7%. The constraints that we have within our organisation, wage inflation, the challenges of employing staff, just shoring up our base organisational abilities to do those things that we are statutorily required to do. We had the opportunity, as others have articulated, of doing a deep dive into how we operate, what our programs look like, in the knowledge that it is going to be a challenging time for our communities, but we've chosen not to go there. We really have gone with a cost plus, putting in place those things that we want to do over and above the things that we have to do. So it really challenges me that we go out to the community that is facing real challenge economically, and poll data and information that I've seen in surveys. The people are looking at the economic challenges that face them today in our communities. Cost inflation, putting bread on the table, fuel costs, interest rates, housing are the things that are at the forefront of their mind. We all understand and know what we need to do for the future, for the environment, but there is a point where we need to balance and be pragmatic in what we do, how we do it, and how we impose that impost on the community. And I genuinely believe that we have not done a good enough job in paring back our expenditure to meet those times in the knowledge of what is coming to us and to our wider communities. We've chosen a PT option, which is very much a social policy, and I'll put my hand up and say I did promote the idea of a free fare across the whole of Greater Christchurch, but it is the whole of Greater Christchurch where everyone would have paid and everyone would have had the opportunity to take up those free fares. What we have now is a targeted scheme where the under 25s, youth, children, community services cards and others get a free fare. Those folk that are in our communities outside of Christchurch, those people that we really want to put into public transport, bring in from the Lincolns, Rollistons, Branyoras and the like, those working people have no gain in this other than paying a rate. They will pay for it for the social gains of others and some, I guess, greenhouse gas reduction. So for me, the $2 flat fare gave us the best opportunity of mode shift, of bringing people into the PT equation because they would get something out of it. So I don't support that the option one that we support. My option is really option two, the flat fare, giving everyone across the whole of Greater Christchurch an opportunity to get some gain from the impost that we will place upon them. I absolutely support the flood recovery work. Our government has recognised that through the floods, we have had regional and national infrastructures challenged, and the need to maintain that resilience is critically important, not just to the localised communities, but to the whole of Canterbury and nationally. So I support that. But I come back again to the affordability of what we are proposing and the extremely challenging times that we face, interest rates peaking, inflation peaking. How do we support our core services whilst doing things that we would like to do rather than things that we need to do? So I will vote for this consultation document going out because it is a consultation document, but I am really challenged by the 24%. It may be only a matter of $1 or $2 a week within an urban environment, but out into our rural and peri-urban communities, the cost of those imposts are significantly more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sunkel. The next person who would like to speak is Councillor Grant Edge. Over to you, Grant.
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to say that this annual plan continues the momentum outlined in our long-term plan, and that aims to deliver the vision and the outcomes now and for future generations. And that's why we're at Councillors at Environment Canterbury. We're required to think about future generations. And we are in challenging times, as other people have said, and it's very difficult. COVID-19 has disrupted global economies and the way that we've been able to maintain our usual life experiences. The Chair's introduction to the consultation document highlights the efforts that we've made to maintain the levels of service identified in the long-term plan. We've reduced some costs in some areas and been able to defer some work as well in an effort to bring costs down. Climate change is impacting everything that we do. And we have to address, and we're committed to addressing the climate change emergency that we're in, climate change and ecological emergency. The challenges that we have had in this past year, which we've got to accommodate within our, or that we need to accommodate within the annual plan process, are major storm events that we incurred last year. We do need to make the effort in our international obligations in trying to reduce our share of carbon emissions in Canterbury. The consultation document seeking feedback on those three key things. And one of them is the fair review. And that's been discussed widely with our Greater Christchurch partners. I'm particularly interested to see what our community thinks about things. Especially for me, what the community thinks about a single zone approach to make things simple. But similarly, there are issues about the funding of that and the share of funding that we all have to contribute to. The flood recovery and protection costs, a major storm event. We had a similar fairly significant storm event in 2019. And we are likely with climate change to have these things repeated on us year in and year out. It's unsustainable for us to continue to do this. And we need to, in fact, our 30-year infrastructure plan is suggesting that we are looking at transitioning away from the traditional approach for protection mechanisms. We need to take a more holistic approach about how we are managing our land and water resources. Where are we farming? Too close to the rivers, in riverbeds? Are we putting our new subdivisions in harm's way? Our coastal landscapes are going to be inundated in many places, but we still have urban environments continuing to be developed in those areas. Do we retreat? Do we protect? Or do we give rivers more space so that they can discharge their water over a slightly larger area to make it safer for everyone else? The issue really is the challenge of how do we fund all these things. We have government funding, which is not nearly enough. And we do need to see some movement in the government on its climate change adaptation packages, which hopefully will come sooner rather than later. These are tough decisions that councillors are going to have to make. We are aware of the rising inflation rate. It's predicted to climb a little bit more, and we do recognise the inequities in our society, and that goes across the whole of Canterbury, whether you're urban or rural. But anyway, for me, I'm supporting this discussion document, and I'm hoping that we get some good public feedback. But I'm committed to the idea of the vision that we had in our strategic direction. It is really important that we have to continue to think about the future, and that's going to impact on all of us. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The next person on my list is Councillor Tanei Apanui. Over to Councillor Tanei Apanui. Over to you, Tanei.
Yeah, I thought Vicky was going to steal my thunder there for a second.
Well, yeah, if you don't mind,
my hand's number one, but that's all good.
Are you all right, Vicky? It seems to disappear and go crazy. So anyway, you go next, Tanei, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, I'd like to thank the staff for bringing this to us. I'm not overly comfortable with nearly 25% that we're going up with. Look, in my view, transport is one of our biggest costs that we have. That adds probably some of the most value to the products that we put out there. Look, to use an analogy, it doesn't. If you cook a bad dinner, it doesn't matter how much tomato sauce you put on it, it's always going to be a bad dinner. And I think we're sort of at a point where we're trying everything we can to get patronage up on our PT network, but the network itself isn't what you'd call a streamlined product. So that was taken out of our hands a few years ago. And I think we're just all a little uncomfortable with how PT is progressing, and we're doing everything we can inside the building. I think potentially in the future we need to look at even PT futures. We probably need to just go back and have a look at the network as a whole, and is it really fit for purpose? Look, as some of the other councillors have said, this is a consultation document, so we have to be prepared to listen to what people bring back to us shortly.
Thank you, Councillor Apanui. I'm not sure if Tanei's gone off electronically, or are you still with us, Tanei?
Yeah, still here.
Oh, that's right. I just thought you might have been cut off then, but that's fine. You seem to go really quickly. That was all. Okay, over to Councillor Vicky Southworth, your turn.
Thank you, and yeah, I'll try and keep it short as well. So I'd like to completely agree with the last speaker and remind everyone this really is a consultation document. The whole point is to bring in responses from our community, and what we've gone out with, I think, is a really good range of options, topics for discussion, which are interestingly all connected. So we know that we have a climate and ecological crisis on our hands, and we are addressing or discussing in our document a climate levy, flood recovery, and we've seen several of those in recent years here, so we understand how important those are, and also the bus fare structure, which is of course our tool for reducing emissions. And so these three things are actually completely linked. As the last speaker said, our network is not up to where it should be, and we are working on that, and I would really love to see us also improve our network. And that's something that, again, I expect we'll hear some submissions from our community on that topic as well. And ultimately, of course, we have to have a shift away from car use. And I think the important thing to look at with the submission, with the issue on our bus fare structure, is that under 25s do subsequently become adult fare payers. And so it's really about trying to get a shift in passenger numbers and doing something that's notably different from what we've done so far, and it's a trial. So I think that's something to bear in mind, but really keen to hear people's opinions. And we've heard a full range from all of the councillors. Thank you to all the councillors who've spoken so far. I think, you know, the full range of views, good arguments for various positions have been made, and that's what I would expect to see from our submissions, and we'll need to listen to those. So really my main thing is just to say we've got such a big task to do in balancing all of the different crises and issues that we've got for our future, and making sure that we consider the financial struggles of some in our community, and that we know that that's a growing problem. We also need to address the issues of biodiversity degradation and climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, which are still going up. And of course, we need to make sure that we're also considering future generations and not just kicking the can down the road. So what decisions we make today has an effect on those in the future. And so just reiterating again, it's a consultation. I completely support the document and thank staff for pulling it together, and look forward to submissions and then considering where we land through the subsequent debate and deliberations later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The next person to speak would be Councillor Craig Pauling. Over to you, Craig.
Kia ora koutou. Ai tuatahi ka nui te mihi mahana kia koutou nā kai mahi o tō tātou nei kai kaunihera or kaunihera. Ai tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. So just like others, acknowledging the work of our staff and pulling all of this together. It's not an easy task to pull together a program to deal with both current and future issues, while also dealing with legacy issues created by actions in the past, a lack of knowledge or a lack of investment. These are the things that all councils face and all governments face around the world, and particularly so here in our country. So what we have in front of us is a reflection of that. It's definitely not perfect, and yes, it's a significant amount of money and resources, and yes, some may struggle with that. But I do ask myself, is this going to make a difference? Will it help our community deal with our core issues around our waterways, our biodiversity, around governance and management of our natural resources, and in dealing with issues such as climate change? And then I say, yes, it will. And we did make changes to our starting point. We did cut programs, including one very close to my heart. And I do believe we are listening to our community and trying to do more. That is what I've heard from people. Yes, there is affordability issues that people raise. That's always going to be there. But overwhelmingly, I feel people want Environment Canterbury to do more about the state of our environment and where things are at, which is our core function. And so therefore, I really look forward to the community's feedback that we're going to get, especially around the three key topics as people have outlined: bus fares, flood recovery, and of course the climate change action. So in saying that, ho mai o koutou wero, ho mai o koutou whakaaro, ho mai o koutou kōrero i pāna tēnei māhere, ai tēnā koutou. So yeah, thanks everybody, and look forward to hearing more discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Pauling. The next person to speak will be Tumu Taiao, Yvette Couch-Lewis. Over to you, Yvette.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Just wanting, I'll keep it brief, but firstly, just sort of like other speakers, would like to acknowledge everyone for the mahi pulling this consultation document together. We're in uncertain times within a pandemic world for communities and individual households as to what our future will look like. The decisions we make has a direct impact on the well-being of our environment and communities. Our role commitment is for the environment and our communities, and we would all agree with that. Whānau and the natural environment are intrinsically connected. It is about how we as a council find that balance in managing the well-being of the community and whānau, not at the expense of one or for the other. The key messages, directions across the portfolio drives to find this balance by working collaboratively with our communities, at the same time meeting our regulatory obligations. I support every word that will benefit our environment and in turn our community's well-being. However, this balance will come at a cost to our communities during a time of uncertainty. Is this the way to find balance? By consulting, we give the community the ability to comment. I look forward to receiving feedback from our communities. Are we getting it right? Is the direction this council is striving for enable our communities to continue the journey to balance with our natural world? I hope we will hear of some innovative ways to achieve the outcomes the annual plan is striving to achieve. And again, just thank you for everyone for their mahi, and I look forward to the community's discussion. Kia ora.
Thank you, Yvette. Councillor Nicole Marshall, would you like to go next? Over to you, Nicole.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. So today we are voting on whether to endorse draft annual plan and the public consultation document for public consultation. So getting the annual plan content and documents together for endorsement by council was an absolute triumph by staff, and I really, really want to stress my enthusiasm, thanks, etc. for staff in getting us to today. Staff have worked with council since, by my count, September to develop these documents. Staff at every step have provided clear and consistent advice. However, this council has not been consistent. Members of this council have relitigated at every turn guidance council has given to staff because they didn't see the council position reflected as their personal position. This is not democracy. Council, even at the 11th hour, were unable to be consistent in the guidance given to staff that meant there was no draft annual plan for council to consider over the Christmas break because it wasn't formulated. My understanding, this is the first time this has happened. Council was still disagreeing on what should be in the consultation as late as last week. I would pose that staff have had a harder time getting to today, creating an annual plan that's a variation of year 2 of the long-term plan that we signed off last year than they did in getting to the same place of the long-term plan itself. And to me, this is just simply unforgivable. We have not undertaken a process that was an effective use of staff or council time. The amount of time given to relitigating previous guidance meant there was less time to see to other council business. We have followed a convoluted and unnecessary iterative process that has not resulted in a product that would have been any different had we stuck with our initial guidance to staff. On the annual plan itself, I acknowledge how confronting it is to consult on what is essentially a 25% increase 2 years in a row. I acknowledge the views raised by my fellow councillors about how we revisited our work programs and how this translated to the rate rise proposed. However, I am comfortable with where we landed in terms of the balances we have made with the ECAN work program, the cost of doing this to the community, and the cost to our region of not doing the proposed work. On the fair trial, like Councillor Mackay, I would have preferred this council prioritise investment in service improvements, which is, again, guidance this council has given to staff that we have not remained consistent on. Our network needs to function for our community to want to use it, and it could always be better. However, I am hopeful that the fair trial options will get good engagement, and where we land, we'll see improved patronage. On flood protection and recovery, I note council considered multiple funding options before arriving at the proposal to borrow over 2 years and pay it back over 10 using a regional rate. I acknowledge that the guidance given to this council by the Canterbury mayors on this matter and that we are broadly consistent with that guidance, which I think is really important. I echo concerns raised by Councillor Edge that flood protection and recovery mechanisms are unsustainable in the face of climate change, and we require support from government to resolve this just fundamental issue, noting that they are currently conspicuously absent from the whole flood recovery and funding space. On the climate levy, I echo concerns from Councillor Ian McKenzie that this proposal came to us late from a fellow councillor and is largely unformed. And to me, it appeared to be quite a knee-jerk reaction to the Auckland Council's climate levy proposal. My hope is that feedback on this matter will give Council the guidance it needs to see this proposal succeed and be a well-rounded beast. I will be endorsing the annual plan. I will be listening to community feedback, and I will be making my decisions on signing off the annual plan later this year based on that feedback. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Councillor, who's next? Councillor Peter Scott, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just as seconding this motion, Jenny, I will. So it's good to get to this point in time with our annual plan and reiterate everything that's been said about staff in terms of the work they've put in there. So thank you very much for that. I feel like I'm ploughing a paddock for the second time because I'm going to repeat some of the things that have been said. But this consultation document is our responsibility in terms of making sure that we do engage with our community, and I look forward to doing that. But I'm a bit concerned that that our consultation closes on the 3rd of April, and the reports that we have is, and we may know more once the Prime Minister makes a decision today. But it's going to be difficult. And so it's not a normal consultation process that we're going into. There will have to be a lot of innovative ways in terms of reaching some of the people. I question 24%. I support the fact that the floods need our support. I support the fact that PT needs our support. And I agree with some of the speakers in terms of the fact that it looks like we're just throwing more and more money at PT and not getting it sorted out. But again, that's where we're at this stage. I'm a bit unsure of the climate change fund. That seems a wee bit nebulous to me at the moment, and maybe we'll through a consultation process we'll get some good feedback on that issue. I'm concerned about inflation and the affordability across a whole lot of households here. Look, I look forward to the submissions. I hope we get a lot on this. I hope people do engage with us. This is one of our democratic processes that should bring out those ideas that we're seeking. We will get an opportunity on the 26th to the 29th of April when we listen to those submissions, and then once we deliberate those decisions, and who knows where we'll get to once we've done that. Maybe we will have some change in stances that we've iterated today, or maybe we'll just have to go a wee bit harder. I don't know. So thank you, Jenny, and I'll pass to you.
Okay, I'm just going through our list, and I wanted to give everyone an opportunity. Ayan, are you okay? Did you want to speak? Are you online?
Kia ora, Jenny. Yeah, I am. I'm here.
Would you like to speak?
Oh yeah, I just I mean, listening to everyone, it's good to listen to everyone's views, etc. Yeah, I mean, we go back to the start of the whole process when we got the 18%, and then we had the of course the flooding, which took it up to like 2%, and then we had the accounting issues regarding it, and it took it up another 4%. So that took us up to our 24%. And then there was a little bit, to and froing regarding, what it looked like. But in essence, this is a consultation document, and we've heard that through the process. And looking at what is going forward, what are some of the options, and I mean, we've talked about buses and what will buses look like for Christchurch and for Canterbury, and what we've put out in the consultation document, and I think gives our communities a chance to look at those options and come back to us. Flooding, of course, flooding is going to be an ongoing issue, and we've spread that across our communities, and because we never know where the next one's going to cross, but also. What that does is, regarding the flooding, it also kind of highlights that climate change is going to come more often, I suppose, and we're going to have to be affected more often. So, having actually initially, I thought yes, go for the flooding and put it across as more of a general rate, but then also thinking about it that that should translate into the future into more of a climate rate as well, because. Other areas are going to be affected, and if we have that resource, I know we have reserves set aside for a lot of funding, and we have our rating districts to help with that. But over time, that it's going to be further issues. So having that climate or levy, I heard someone say levy rate in there for the community to discuss. And I'll go back to Yvette's comments regarding we're here for the environment in our communities. And we're giving them an opportunity to come back to us, and probably listening to Councillor Marshall. Yes, listen to them, And then after going through a deliberation, then we can come back to the community with our final outcome. But once again, ngā mihi ki a koutou katoa, ki ngā hapori nei, ai, tukuna mai o whakaro, kia mātou. Nō reira tēnā koutou. Mauri ora.
Thank you, Yayan. Well, I'll just finish off. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge my fellow councillors for getting to this point. Really, the whole process has been democracy in action. Sometimes democracy is not easy, and I acknowledge it's hard work for staff, having been a staff member at the City Council and working in this space. I know it's difficult, but I know that people who work for the Regional Council work there because they want to work in the environmental space often, and they also would love working for a council where we can assist the community, work with the community and hear from the community, and that's what we're doing here. I just want to talk now a little bit about the bigger picture from my point of view. You know, when I got elected to council, my way of working was trying to work as best I could around ecologically sustainable decision making, nature-based decision making, and bringing that into a legal space that's designed a very long time ago, or even though it was designed way back then, it should have been able to adjust to take account of the fact that us humans are living in an era of planetary overshoot. We've overshot on our carbon emissions. We've overshot our life on the planet in terms of destroying our biodiversity, our biosecurity, our pests, our water pollution. It doesn't matter what criteria you use, our birds are dying. We are killing our planet. And the only logical way I can explain that to myself is that human beings are in fact an illogical species, because we've known about planetary overshoots since 1972 in the book Limiting Growth. And I am really sad that we haven't been able to see what we needed to change, but now we can, and time is running out. We need collective action, and we need to look when we get in these positions for levers that can help with that, because all levels of government need levers to help us work on climate change and to save the planet. And so I'm really excited that we're going out for very early engagement around a seed of an idea around a levy around climate change. What does the community think of that? This is supposed to be democracy where people participate. This is your chance as a citizen, if you're listening, to come forward and talk to us. We want to hear your ideas. If you don't like it, that's great. If you love it, that's better. In my view, if you've got a new idea around it, I want to hear it. Because if 16 people can't make all the decisions by ourselves, we need your help. We need everyone's help. Humans need everyone to save our planet. Just turning to the economic reality. The economic reality for us at ECAN is all our reserves have been spent. So we are in a situation where we also don't have any capital assets as a council bringing in income for us like other councils do. We have to find new ways of doing this. We have to find a way to pay for the flooding from last year, and climate change, as we know, is going to bring more of that. So I want to ask the general public to join with us in paying a general rate across all of Canterbury to face up to the flooding and to give protection to our rivers and to all the infrastructure other people have talked about. I want to work with the people in Ashburton to get a different way to engage around the flooding and to bring in some money to pay for that flooding. I'm also very interested in what we're going to do about transport. So I think it's great we're going out with a conversation about, there's a whole range of options there. I encourage the public to look at those and see what they think is best. I don't know what's actually best, and never do any of us. We need to hear from you. We need for you all to be in here making those decisions with us. And if you think we should bring in a bike hire scheme or provide bikes for citizens in central Christchurch or provide public transport for people living in our regional towns, I agree with you, because that's what we should be doing. But how are we going to pay for it all? So we are going out with 24.1%. And I think that's a really good way of engaging with the public, because the public we recognise that it's going to be difficult for people to pay that sort of rate. We need to hear from people. We need to consider it, and then we need to go back to the drawing board and have a look at what is reasonable, what can people pay, what did the community tell us. And I think we're really good at listening to the community, and that was shown last time during our long-term plan, and it was fantastic. So many people engaged with us. So let's get together, find solutions, work with everybody. We need democracy more than ever, and I think it's exciting. I think it's fantastic. Let's find a way to go that suits us all. We might not all agree, but here's the chance for the public to join us, have their say, dive into democracy, get excited, find a new way forward, green your space and help do tree plantings. But how about coming to talk to us about how we're going to fund all of this? So just to finish, I'd like to thank staff. I think they've been fantastic, and I've really enjoyed working with you to get to this point. So thank you very much. I'll just finish there. Now I'm going to put the resolutions. So if you could put the resolutions up again, that'd be great. Here's the two recommendations moved by myself and Councillor Peter Scott. Now we'll just have hands up on the machine again, please. So if you could raise your hand if you're in support of this resolution. Christina, I might need your help. All right, so are you right to move on, Christina? No, has everybody got their hand up or whatever's happening? All right, time to move on. All right, thank you very much. All those against this resolution, please put your hand up.
I got it.
Or put your hand up here. Has everybody got their hand down from last time?
I've only recorded 8 votes.
Oh, have you?
So we have a few missing.
All right, so we better do it again. All right.
No, I think we're probably either abstaining or voting against, Jenny.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll test that out, Claire. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, so we've got 2 people voting against. That's Councillor Claire Mackay and Councillor Hands. Is there anybody abstaining? Please let me know if you're abstaining. Just tell me. Who's abstaining?
Looks like nobody.
Nobody. Okay, so we'll have to do it again if you've only got that many recorded. Sorry, I moved on a bit quickly, I guess. All right, sorry, everybody. We'll just have to do it again. Everybody raise their hand, please, if you're in support of this resolution. Can someone else help Christina, maybe?
I have them all now. I got 10 for and 2 against.
Well, I haven't voted.
11.
Yep, there's 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't voted, but I'm for it. Can't find my hand now.
Got it.
Voting for it, that's 12 for and 2 against.
So we've still got, and so are there 2 people abstaining? There's not, are there?
There's nobody abstaining.
So you've got the full number now?
Yes.
Cool. All right, I declare that carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Do the against want that noted?
Yes, would the against like their names noted?
Yes, please.
That's Councillor. Who else?
Thank you. Councillor Hands.
Yes, Councillor Hands. Would you like yours noted too? We'll take it that she does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, everybody, that was good. Thank you very much. We're moving on to resolution recommendation number 4 now. If we could just move the screen up, that'd be good. So now we're delegating to the Council's CEO, Dr. Stephanie Rexeter, the authority and responsibility for agreeing minor editorial changes and making minor editorial changes to the 22-23 annual plan consultation document and the draft annual plan 22-23. All those in favour, please say aye.
I'll second that.
Oh, second by Councillor Peter Scott. You better get a second. I am mucking up. Councillor Scott seconded it. All those in favour, please put your hand up. I think that's going to be unanimous. Otherwise, we're in trouble. We can't make any little changes. All right, I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, we're just moving on now to page 208. And I haven't missed anything, have I, everybody? Am I right? Am I right, Christina?
Yes.
I am, right? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Item 7.2, council submission on our future resource management system consultation proposal. I think it'll be good to just ask Olivia, are you online? Olivia, would you like to say a few words around it?
Yes, Chair Huey, and yes,
Oh, lovely to see you. Over to you. You go
thank you. So I'll just briefly introduce the paper, and I won't spend too long covering off the content, but this item relates to a request for council to approve a draft submission on the consultation document, Future Resource Management System, Te Pūnaha, Whakahaere, Roine or Anamata. And there are two recommendations in the paper. The first is that council approve attachment 1, which is the draft submission. And the second is that they delegate to the Chief Executive the authority to make minor changes. And I'll just briefly outline the process that we've used, but also some of the key themes from the document. So I know councillors and Tumu Taiao will be aware that resource management reform is a significant proposal for this council. We have maintained a presence throughout the consultative processes to date, and that started right back in the early stage with putting in feedback on the issues and options papers, and then putting in a submission on the bill, the Natural and Built Environments Bill, which came out last year in the exposure draft. And we had the Councillor Scott and Edge speak to that bill at the select committee process. So this is really just the next stage in the process, and this consultation seeks feedback on 33 questions, and it covers a range of themes relating to the design of the system. And really, if you look at paragraph 10, that highlights the main themes that the council submission addresses. And many of those have been covered off in our previous submissions. So things like the need for localism, democracy, the important role of local government, but also this time of taking the opportunity to respond to specific questions and emphasise the need for an agile, responsive system and for it to be cost effective and to provide certainty to users. So just finally, the process we've used to date for this has been to work through the Regional and Strategic Leadership Committee. And so the feedback and the content of the submission reflects the advice that we have received. And so now it's ready for council to consider and approve if they consider that appropriate. And then the next step is that this will inform advice to the Minister, and we should hopefully see a full bill in the third quarter of this year, which will be another opportunity. That was all I had to say on the paper, really.
Well, thank you very much, Olivia. I just really want to say how much we do appreciate you and other staff working so diligently on these submission papers. It's a very difficult job, and taking everybody's views into consideration. And yes, paragraph 10 is an excellent reflection of the discussions and way forward we would like to go. So I think you've done a fantastic job here. And I'd just like to reiterate that supporting the treaty and taking a treaty perspective is being highlighted again here in this piece of legislation. So very good work, and thank you very much for persevering with us. So are there any questions for Olivia, or are we all okay with that? We have had quite a bit of discussion online, so I suspect there's no questions. Oh, Councillor Edge, yes, you go ahead.
No, mine's more of a comment.
Oh, you can make a comment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Look, I just wanted to say thank you very much to staff for preparing such a comprehensive submission. Yeah. And I'm supporting the submission. It's inspiring and it's forward thinking, and it provides both positive reinforcement of the government's proposals whilst querying various issues of concern about process and practicalities. And item with reference to that item 10, the bullet point that I've sort of picked up on was the need for an agile and responsive framework that enables local authorities to act where there is evidence that environmental outcomes are not being met or where tipping points are close to being reached. The submission comments on issues such as the development of regional spatial strategies, talks about defining boundaries using natural biophysical characteristics. It addresses cross-boundary issues. It acknowledges landscape diversity. And in item 37, in particular, it on page 6, it talks about the complexity of factors that shape the identity of a place for our communities. And that's really important. There's a bit of that localism issue and our own sense of place. The submission reinforces that the RMA needs to be transformative and agile, just as our strategic direction is doing the same thing and seeking the same thing. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Edge. And actually, I guess that really should have been in the debate, but never mind, that was great. So we might thank you, Olivia, and we might move these resolutions now, and then I'll see if anybody else wants to speak. So I'll move it from the chair. We'll just have the deputy as the seconder, if that's all right with you, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and it wouldn't make a comment once you open this up for talk.
Okay, so we've got both resolutions moved up together. That's number 1. And number 2 delegates to the Chief Executive the authority to and responsibilities to make the changes and approving the attached submission. So who would like to speak? Councillor Scott, you go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I just want to comment on the work that has been done here by Olivia. She's probably one of the most flexible people that we have in terms of incorporating all the ideas that have come to her over the last wee while regarding this, and I think she's done a really fantastic job. She's not only diligent but accurate in terms of the stuff that she comes out with. So thank you, Olivia, and others in your wider team that have helped you, because I think there's a big piece of work and you've done really, really well with that. So that's why I'm happy to second the motion, Chair.
All right, Councillor Lan Fan.
Yeah, kia ora. Thanks for the submission. I just want to follow up the congratulations, and I also just wanted to make the comment that you know, this is so important, and we know that, and which is why staff have put so much effort into this, and it's been done so well. So I really want to congratulate them on that. But I also want to say, yeah, it's been great that council have been able to, you know, put our views across. But I really want to shout out to staff in terms of, because I really see these submissions on the reforms and how we're going to go ahead as a local government system, both elected members and staff, is really the opportunity for staff to bring so much of their own knowledge and expertise and passion to the fore. And I think that's what we're seeing here. You know, they're the ones that know these systems in and out and what needs to change or what could change to really achieve a environmental management system that not only doesn't degrade but ideally enhances the environment and upholds te oranga o te taiao. So I just want to say thank you for staff just bringing that and capturing it in this way, and please keep it up. We need it for all the reforms, and I hope that government can understand that Environment Canterbury holds so much knowledge and expertise in this area, and particularly when it comes to upholding Te Tiriti and our partnership approach with mana whenua, and where we're hoping that can get to in the near future and further in the future. I hope that the government turns eyes to this region and is keen to listen and learn and hopefully apply some things that we're suggesting. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Lan. Tumu Taiao Yvette, would you like to speak next?
Kia ora. Lan, I would like to support Lan's comments there. Just sitting listening there. Most definitely, I just want to acknowledge the staff. We have very good staff, and the knowledge that they have and can bring to these submissions, especially Lan's comments in terms of the future and how we want to be able to work with mana whenua within this space. So I think that this submission is really good and moving towards how we do see our future moving forward. So Olivia, again, just acknowledging Peter's comments and everyone else, but thank you. And just thank you very much for the mahi that has all been done and striving forward into the future. Kia ora.
All right, thank you, Yvette. Is there anybody else that would like to speak about this? Because I know there's lots of passionate people on the council about the RMA, and a lot of you know a lot about it. So it's really good to have such a group of individuals on council. So nobody else wishes to speak. I don't want to not give you a turn. Okay, I'd just like to say a few words in moving this resolution. Look, I really think that the RMA as it stands is a fantastic piece of legislation, and it's been a leading document in the international ecological decision-making sphere since 91 and 92 when it was first introduced. And it's really how us humans have mucked up the application of it that is the problem. It's a very solid piece of legislation to help protect our environment and balance the four well-beings and balance the ecological environment with the economy, with our well-being and our culture. And I just hope that we get the changes that we want, where we really can truly make ecologically sustainable decision-making, not just decision-making that's particularly balanced in one way. So I'm really looking forward to the changes, and I think if they follow what our staff have and all of you on the council have wisely advised, I think we'll be in a really good space. So thanks very much, everybody, and I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, the two resolutions, please indicate by putting your hand up. How are we going with that, Christina?
Yep.
And I'm voting for it as well.
Yep, all 12.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody voting against it, would you please put your hand up? I don't think anybody's against it because we've given an opportunity to everybody to say, but there still could be. All right. Anybody against? We've still got a couple of people's hands up. I think they're probably for it still. Okay, against now. You really have to go slow with this. All right, there's nobody against. I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much, everybody. And yes, once again, Olivia, thank you very much. It's very valuable work you're doing here. Now, I will just, the next meeting, I can't think when it is, but it's coming up in a regular pattern in March, March the 18th or something like that. And I would like to hand over to Craig. Are you going to do the closing for us? Or is Peter?
No, I am.
Peter. Okay, Councillor Peter Scott. Thank you, Peter.
But just before I finish, I'd just like to thank you, Chair, for conducting this annual plan adoption. I think giving everyone the opportunity to speak and to put their mind to what they had to say is a cathartic process for everyone. So thank you for that. And I think it's been a good meeting, and we know it's not hard. It's not easy online, but I think you've done well. So
thank you, Peter.
I'll send us home with ka whakakaria te kōrero. Ka whakakaria te kōrero ki te tahu o tō tātou whare. Ia te kina ano a tōna wahi. Haumi e, hui e, ai.
Tāki e.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny.
Kia ora koutou.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye, everyone.